In our previous episodes, we witnessed the sack of the Telerin city of Alqualonde by the Sons of Feanor, and the fall of the Sindarin Kingdom of Doriath to the Dwarves, and later again to the Noldor. In our third and final episode, the Oath of Feanor is again at work in Middle-earth, this time culminating in one of the cruellest slayings of elf by elf, the sack of the Havens of Sirion. Following the sack of Doriath and the fall of the elven cities of Gondolin and Nargothrond, which I don't have time to cover in this video but will be covered by a series at a later date, refugees flocked to the Havens at Sirion where the Falathrim, or Elves of the Falas, still held the darkness at bay. The Havens were one of the few places left in Beleriand that still defied Morgoth's rule, and as such were a symbol of hope and renewal for the remaining Edain and Eldar in Middle-earth. Fleeing with the survivors of Doriath was Elwing, daughter of Dior, son of Thingol, king of Doriath, and in her possession she retained a Silmaril, one of the perfect jewels of the elven smith Feanor, and an heirloom that his sons would stop at nothing to recover. The remaining Sons of Feanor laid claim to the Silmaril and launched a fierce attack upon the walls of the Havens with what few followers remained to them in an attempt to reclaim it. Círdan the Shipwright and Gil-galad, the future High King of all Noldor, sailed to the defense of the Havens, but by the time they arrived, it was too late. The Sons of Feanor had overwhelmed the defenders and ravaged the Havens, slaughtering most of the people who dwelt there. However, the Silmaril once again slipped through their fingers. Rather than surrender the jewel to the Sons of Feanor, Elwing cast herself into the sea to escape them. Instead of drowning, she was borne up by Ulmo, Vala of Waters, and turned into a white bird. She flew away to find her husband Eärendil, and together they broke the ban of the Valar and reached the Undying Lands. From their bravery would spring the salvation of men and elves, as soon after, the Valar would march to war and cast down Morgoth from his dark throne. But that is a story for another day. And that about does it for the history. I hope you guys found it interesting. We're going to take a look at the army compositions now, starting with the High Elves. The first High Elven force we're looking at today is being commanded by yours truly. I brought 3 units of Sindar Blade Masters, I think about 5 units of Sword Quendi, 1 unit of Eldarin Way Nobles, there's also a unit of Eldarin Way Lancers hanging out here somewhere. A couple units of Mithlond Nobles, I believe 3 units of Lindon Longspears to back up my main line. I've also got a couple units of Eldarin Way Archers, who are a very essential part of my army, the Eldarin Way Archers being one of the very few AP picks that the High Elves have available to them. So these guys are AP Archers, and they are extremely accurate and therefore extremely deadly. Speaking of AP, I've also brought 1 unit of Smiths of Eredin. There's my Lancers in the back there. The Smiths of Eredin have 3 HP, like 40 for attack, all of which is AP. Like, these guys are tanks. You will generally never be able to afford more than 1 of them, however, and they are, of course, a little bit slower and vulnerable to missiles, AP missiles in particular, things like that. I've also got a unit of Catapult hanging out right here, and alongside the Catapult is my General's Bodyguard, a unit of Noldor Elder Nobles, who are another AP Archer unit, but again, very expensive. I think these guys cost like 1,400 or something to bring. They cost a lot, so it's a big investment, but they are definitely worth it in most cases, in my opinion. Moving on now to the forces of my ally. We have another High Elven force here being commanded by, this is Esgal Nordir, also known as Ryan, and he is, of course, bringing some Lindon Longspears as well, which are for some reason separated from the rest of the main body of his force. He's brought some Sword Quendi, a couple units, or I believe 3 units of Norituna Warriors, a Catapult, a couple units of Mithlond Nobles, and some Eldarin Way Spears, who are very important. These guys are the staying power of an Eldar battle line. They've got like 50 defense, 18 attack, and 2 HP to boot, meaning that they are no slouches and can take on most non-elite heavy infantry toe-to-toe, despite the fact that they are spearmen. He's also brought a unit or 2 of Imladris Guard, and I think that just about covers it for his force. Let's move into the fortress now and take a look at what my ally, the King of the Hill, is bringing. He's also bringing some Sindar Blade Masters. I don't know how many units of them, probably 2 or 3. He's also got some Sword Quendi, some Imladris Stormguard, who honestly, in my opinion, need a buff in 0.9. They are more expensive than the Mithlond Nobles and have less numbers and just generally not as good. So hopefully they see a buff at some point in the future. But for the time being, they are not bad heavy infantry. They can beat, I think, most other factions' heavy infantry. But for High Elves, they're a little bit underpowered in terms of what they cost to bring. He's also got a unit of Smiths of Eredin, of course. He's got 3 or 4 units, I believe, of the Norituna Warriors. Actually, no, only 3 units because we had a 3 archer limit max for the attackers. He's also got a unit of catapult, some Falas Lords who have fallen a long way from the powerhouse unit that they used to be, but they are still quite useful with about 4 HP. They're basically an upgraded unit of Eldarin Spearmen. And I think they've got a little bit more attack as well. That basically does it for his force. Let's move on now to my next ally, that being King Strategist. He is bringing some Noldor cavalry. Very good reason for this, because the heavy cavalry counts as one of the heavy anything picks that the High Elves are allowed to bring. So he's got some Noldor right there. He's also got some other cav hiding out as well. Sindar Blade Masters, catapults, some Noldor Elder Nobles, because everybody loves these guys. Some Imladris Storm Raiders, who are an interesting unit. They've got these gigantic glaives that are taller than they are. And they're anti-cavalry. I don't think they're anti-armor. But they do make really great support troops. I think they've got about 40 attacks, something like that. They are quite slow. That is their biggest downfall, is that this unit is quite slow, so it's hard to keep them up with the rest of your battle line. So you need to pay a lot of attention to that. King Strategist also bringing, I believe, 3 battalions of the Imladris Guard. These guys are super scary, the best pikes in the game. Normally you only ever see 1, so 3 is certainly going to wreak some havoc. He's also brought, I believe, 1 or 2 units of the Falas Lords, 1 Smith of Eredin, some Lindon Long Spears, and of course another unit of old Noldor Elder Nobles, because why not? You need 2 of them. More Imladris Guard there, yet more Smiths of Eredin. It's a very high tier, very deadly army, and you can see over here is another unit of Noldor cavalry. As I mentioned previously, at least I'm pretty sure I mentioned that previously, we had basically unlimited funds to do what we liked within a certain very specific set of rules. So that's why you're seeing a lot of the crazy units in like 2s and 3s that you don't normally see in your battle. So don't take this as a statement of balance in the game as it stands currently. This is just something we did specifically for fun and for the historical scenario. But in case, moving on now to the forces of Tornado, he has brought some Sword Quendi, of course. Some Sindar Blade Masters, a couple units of Imladris Stormguard. He's got a very strong contingent of Eldarin, 1 unit of Eldarin Spearmen there, 1 unit of Eldarin Archers, and of course some Bow Quendi as well, being backed up by yet more Lindon Long Spears and some more Eldarin Swordsmen or Eldarin Spearmen and Stormguard. He's also got some Sword Quendi. I think we covered them already. 1 unit of Eldarin, 1 or 2 units in any case of Eldarin Swordsmen. He's also brought a unit of Imladris Cav, just because you always want to have a unit of Cav. You never know what your enemies have in store for you. So it would not do for a commander to be caught kind of with his pants down because he doesn't have the cavalry that he needs. But that about does it for the attacking forces. Let's go ahead and let's take a look at what the Silvan Elf defenders have brought today. The first defending army we're going to be looking at today is the forces of Lothlorien, being commanded by Sebi25. And the forces of Lothlorien are basically standard for the entire Silvan Elf army, and they're there to represent survivors from Gondolin, survivors from Doriath, and as well as elves who would have lived on the Falas quite naturally. But in any case, Sebi is bringing 3 units, I believe, 3 or 4 units of Galadrim Veteran Warriors. He's got some Elder Council, who are a very strong, very versatile unit. They've got some deadly javelins, like 20 AP damage. These guys can just truck through heavy infantry, cavalry, you name it, they can kill it. And once they've thrown that, they're also pretty decent medium spearmen. So definitely a decent pick to take in your army compositions. He's also bringing some Sylvan Heavy Swords, a unit of catapults. And down here below, he's got some Silver Spears, who are surprisingly strong. This is a very cost-efficient unit for Lothlorien. They've got really good stats as well. Definitely not something you want to mess around with. There's a second unit of Elder Royal Council, yet more Galadrim Warriors, and you can't really see them, but he's got some Silvan Axemen in here who are a very strong unit. We'll talk a little bit more about them later. But he's also got some Sindar Blade Masters who are currently hiding somewhere in the undergrowth. Let's move on now to the forces of his ally, the first of which is being commanded by Orange Phaedon. Very similar army composition. Lothlorien doesn't have the most robust roster, so you're going to see a lot of overlap between the various armies. And Orange Phaedon is bringing some Silvan Axemen, which is perfect because I want to talk about these guys anyway. They have like 43 or 49 defense. They don't look like much, right? I think the inspiration that Sid and Crow took from this was from a Ted Nasmith picture of a bunch of like Sindar charging out and ambushing some orcs during the First Age. But these guys definitely live up to the warrior heritage of the Sindar. They are very, very deadly with AP and a lot of attack and some really solid defense, especially their melee defense. This is not a unit that you want to play around with. They will do work. He's also bringing some Silvan Heavy Spears, who are very similar to the Eldar Spears. I think they have a little bit less stats because they are Silvan Elves and therefore not Noldor. But yeah, still a very reliable battle line infantry unit. He's also got some Elder Royal Council, 2 units of them in fact, a lot of Javies coming out. 1 unit of catapult, and I don't think you can see them. They may be hiding, but I think he's also got... Oh no, here they are. He's got some Silvan heavy spear, or some Silvan just regular spearmen, who I assume are just drawn from either the militia or the citizens of the Havens of Sirion, and not exactly professional soldiers in their own right. He's also bringing some Sindar archers, some Galadrin veteran warriors, who are, as I mentioned earlier, very, very strong, and yet more silver spears and things like that. Let's move on now to the third and final defending army, being commanded by Happy Meal. And look at this archer force! Galadrin veteran warriors, 5 units of Sindar archers. He's also got a couple units of Silvan heavy swordsmen, some silver spears. A little bit farther back here, we've got some Silvan heavy spearmen, some Sindar blade masters, a catapult, Silvan heavy swordsmen, yet more of the spearmen, and 2 units of elder councils. There's a lot of jabbies here to counter the heavily armored high elves, so it's certainly going to be an interesting fight. But without any further ado, let's get into the battle itself. I hope you guys enjoy it. The siege of the Havens has officially begun, with the Noldor flinging rocks and fire at the walls in an attempt to create several breaches. One thing to note, however, is that this settlement is, for the purposes of gameplay, considered to be a neutral one, meaning that we are not able to target the walls directly, and any breaches that we do manage to create are usually impassable and so can't be used to ferry troops through, which means that we're going to be limited to 2 lanes of attack, one here and one a little bit across the way on the other gatehouse, which you can see right here. So yeah, it's going to be an uphill battle for us, because you can see that there is some quite formidable defenses arranged against us, namely the large presence of Sindar archers up on the wall. They are AP, I believe, so they will cut a bloody swath through the ranks of our Noldor warriors as we approach the walls. So the purpose, therefore, of this artillery volley is to suppress the enemy on the walls, and in that regard, we are doing an admirable job of it. I think the Happy Meal can see what's happening to his Sindarin archers. He's trying to get them off of the walls, but unfortunately, they are kind of disobeying him a little bit. Yeah, you can see them trying to move there, but unfortunately, they're not going to be fast enough, and quite one of them are going to die as a result of that wall collapsing beneath them. Oh, another big hit on the other side, claiming the lives of many of those Sindarin archers. Finally, they are managing to get themselves off the walls, but only a few of them are going to manage to make it. You can see this here. They can't actually make it through because of the pathfinding, and another volley is going to claim the lives of most of that unit. So this Sindar unit, I think, is now down to about 16 or about 19 men from the 50 or 60 that they were previously. So this is already an early victory for the forces of the Noldoran attackers. All these guys, I think they're going to meet the same fate. Let's see if there's another fireball coming their way. Another artillery volley beginning to come in from one of my allies. I believe that's the catapult of Ryan. Ah, here it is. Ah, and there they go. That's very, very devastating for the forces of the Telerin defenders. Over here you can see the High Elven forces now beginning to move in now that they've driven the defenders back from the walls. King Strategist advancing with a heavy commitment here. He's got some long spears. He's got Smiths of Eredin. He's got everything he needs to begin the assault on the city. If you look over here on the other end, I believe myself and my ally are also doing the same. You can see our forces now just formed up, ready to advance on the city as soon as an opportunity presents itself. We're going to go ahead and we're going to fast forward just a little bit here. Oh, it looks like the artillery pieces have now turned their sights onto the defending pieces. For whatever reason, we managed to outrange them so that they're not able to return fire. So out here, they're basically just sitting ducks. Another very accurate shot, claiming a second catapult. Orange Fadot's catapult now down to a third of its combat strength. Once that third catapult goes down, there is going to be no purpose for this artillery crew. They are not up to the task of fighting the Noldor in close combat. Another volley coming in. Let's see if the attackers manage to get this. Oh, they are getting a piece of everything else, though. Happy Meal's spear line and his swordsman, and now the third catapult going down in rapid succession. This is not the kind of accuracy that you normally see from an artillery piece. This is just blind, dumb luck, and it's really paid off for the forces of the attackers so far. You can see some arrow volleys now flying over the walls, claiming the lives of many of these Silvan spearmen. The Elven archers in point 9 are extremely accurate, so this kind of indirect fire is actually quite useful with them. You can see that they are very, very accurate, and these swordsmen just don't have the armor needed to stand up to that. So Happy Meal is going to have to draw back again with his heavy swordsman to to try and get them out of range. These spearmen, however, from the front with their shields, they will do much, much better against the Noldor and archers. Down here you can see some accurate volleys of arrows claiming the lives of many of the silver spears here. These are the front line. Looks like the catapult crew actually going outside the gate. Let's see what these guys are all about. Just in blind fury, charging out the gate into a volley of arrows. The Lindon Longspears coming in on their left flank, looking to surround them. This poor catapult crew going to be completely and utterly destroyed. You can see that the massed forces of the Noldor have now brought themselves before the gates. And looks like Tornado actually moving forward with a heavy commitment of his Eldarinway Spearmen and his Eldarinway Swordsmen as well. Alongside the forces of King Strategist, they're going to be the first into the breach. Elsewhere on the battlefield, you can see the rest of the Noldoran host moving forward, getting ready to assault the other gates simultaneously as their allies are moving in on the other side. This is my forces and the forces of Esgilnordir, also known as Ryan, are moving forward, getting ready slowly but surely to engage the Sylvan Elf front line. Silver Spears ever ready, though, in that beautiful V formation. That is going to be a nightmare for our troops to try and get through. And over here, they still have artillery. They still have everything. We did not manage to soften them up whatsoever before we moved in. So I think the left flank is going to be probably the most difficult position for the Noldor Elves to assault. Oh man, look at this. Down here at the gate, King Strategist and his ally Tornado have moved in against the Sylvan Elf front line, and they are hacking a bloody path through the Sylvan Elves. These Silver Spears just not able to deal with this 1-2 punch with the Smiths of Eredin leading the way. Orange Phaedon going to commit some of his Sindar Blade Masters to the fight now. Try and hold things down. They don't want to lose this gatehouse, not early. They have a great opportunity here, especially with the javelins and the archers that are at the command of the Sylvan Elves to really shut down this High Elven push. You can see the Smiths of Eredin are in here as well. That's an important unit. Now I think would be a good time to bring down some of those AP missiles and use them to their best effect. The commitment over here from Happy Meal moving down with his Sylvan Heavy Spearmen. These guys are going to hold the line for quite a while. Sylvan Heavy Archers look like they're out of ammunition, getting into the fray as well. So the center is very strong, but the flanks, especially on the Noldor left flank, needs to be reinforced. The Sindar Blade Masters are not going to be able to hold for long against the combined might of the Eldarinway units and the Smiths of Eredin, who are leading the way. Let's see how things are going over here on the gate. Looks like our assault has begun. Ryan is going to be the first one into the breach, fighting hard against those Silver Spears, but that V formation really paying off for them. He's trying to run through with his Lindon Longspears, but they're just getting hacked down and surrounded. The combat here around this gatehouse very, very fierce. The Sylvan Elves not going to give an inch of ground to these Noldoran invaders. I've also committed a few of my Sword Quendi as well to try and give them the support that they need. But it says victory is certain, but honestly don't believe it. These Sylvan Spears are very, very strong, and they are about to get reinforcements in the form of 2 units from Sebi 25. So the gatehouse on the left still kind of up in the air. We'll see how we manage to if we manage to get through there or not. But over here, it looks like the Noldor have actually managed to breach with their cavalry, charging through that weakened left flank that I spoke about earlier. This could be a problem. Look at that. They're just going right for the Elder Council. The Sylvan Elves trying to leverage their javelin units against the heavily armored Noldor, but the Noldor are more than ready for them. King Strategist committing some of his light cavalry. Doesn't mind losing them, and it is going to disrupt those Elder Council for a little while. The Sylvan Elves going to respond with a nice charge from their Galadrim mounted company. There's actually some reinforcements here, some Imladris cavalry, actually. These are a really strong Lancer cav in here fighting against the Galadrim mounted company. Looks like there's some reinforcements from the Sylvan light spearmen pushing in to try and drive back that Eldar cavalry. Looks like they've done a pretty good job at it so far, cutting them down very, very swiftly. I think a lot of that is thanks to the archer support that you can see coming in from up atop the hill there. There's actually some attacking arrows coming in as well. Looks like they're trying to focus down the Galadrim mounted company. We definitely want to be wary of these cavalrymen. If they get out, they're very, very fast, and it's going to be very difficult for us to pin them down. Not all my allies have cavalry, and a lot of their cavalry has already been lost. I think I'm the only one that has a significant amount of heavy cavalry left at this point. So we want to pin these guys in place, try and focus fire them down if at all possible. Otherwise, they may become a problem, especially in the late game once we move in to the city. There could be some hammer and anvil strikes coming in. Nobody wants to see that happen. Well, I'm sure the Sylvan Elves do, but the Noldoran Elves definitely have a vested interest in making sure that that cavalry unit is swept from the field. Elsewhere, it looks like the Noldor have managed to breach the gate. Those Elder Royal Council now back up in a firing position, trying to drive them back. You can see more and more Sylvan Elf reinforcements rushing into this gap, trying to delay the Eldar for as long as possible to allow their skirmish forces to do their work. Because the Sylvan Elves are definitely going to rely very heavily on their skirmish forces. Let's go ahead and let's slow it down just a little bit. Take a look at how things are going over on the other side. So we have managed, just through sheer weight of numbers, to push our way through the Sylvan Heavy Spears, but it looks like those 2 units of reinforcements from Sebi actually were just biding their time and reforming, and now they're charging into battle, taking us on either side at the same time. They don't have enough forces, unfortunately, to occupy our center, though, so if we're smart about this, we will be able to wrap around, isolate these 2 companies, and cut them down very, very swiftly. So they definitely need some more reinforcements over on this gate. We've got the numbers needed to push through. Although maybe, now that I see the presence of these Galadriel veteran warriors, maybe this is part of a strategy on Sebi's part. He's left this line of fire basically open for his warriors, and looks like they are forming up to begin to bombard us. So you know what? I take it back. This is not a bad idea at all, especially those lightly armored Sword Quendi and especially the Lindon Longspears, who have very little defense against missiles. This is going to be a really devastating kind of killing blow for those light forces down there at the gatehouse. We've still got more to go around. We've still got 2 more armies at least to throw into that breach, but this is a very cost-efficient way of evening the numbers gap. Let's see if they actually manage to get off a couple volleys. Yeah, look at that. This is going to be devastating for the Noldor Elves. Oh, I can see them just getting cut down left and right. Actually being shot in the flank and the rear. That is devastating. A beautiful defensive position there from Sebi 25. Well done. That's where you can see more artillery fire moving in. Looks like we're trying to thin out the reserve units from, I believe this is Happy Meal, and from the Sylvan Elves in general. You can see those 2 depleted units of Sindar archers trying to do their best, firing down at the Noldor. This Elder Council definitely being used to great effect against this large blob. And you can see that the Noldor have managed to get in, but the Sylvan Elves starting to bring it back a little bit. The presence of these light units backed up by heavy swordsmen in the form of the Sindar Blade Masters and the Sylvan Heavies really starting to take its toll on these Eldarinway Spearmen and what remains of the Eldarinway Swordsmen. Look at this, still a pocket of Sindar Blade Masters and the Silver Spears fighting down here on the flank. So the position of the High Elves, they've managed to make great gains. Ooh. They've managed to make great gains, but they are far from secure at this point. Actually, they've moved in with another unit of Sindar Blade Masters to cut off the reinforcements. This is a great play on the part of the defenders. Oh man, those Lindar Long Spears just getting devastated. Look at that. That is very brutal. More artillery fire coming in from the Noldor, trying to leverage just the sheer numbers of artillery that they have. That's kind of risky what they're doing right there. It looks like one of my allies is trying to fire over the walls into the Sylvan Elf forces down here, but just through sheer weight of numbers, we are managing to drive back the Silver Spear. So if they keep doing that, they will hit us, and that will be very unfortunate. Sebi 25 has moved in with more of his Galadriel veteran warriors. Look at this, he's got us like surrounded on like 2 or 3 sides with those very deadly archers. Still got yet more reserves back here. I think now would be a good time to commit the Sylvan Axeman, though. He wants to try and keep us pinned here for as long as possible. He's doing his best. They said our Blade Master is going to hold the line for a while against the Sword Quendi, but definitely more reinforcements needed to keep us in place and maybe even get their artillery moving. Oh, speaking of artillery, devastating volleys coming into the Sword Quendi and the massed ranks of the Lindon Longspears, doing a lot of damage. If he keeps it up, I mean, if he manages to inflict enough casualties to us, these kind of units are among the few in the Elven roster that will rout, and for me, that's the majority of my forces. I've only got about 8 or so heavy units. We did technically have some rules about how many heavy units you could bring, but I think I'm the only one that actually kept to them. So my forces are very much largely composed of Militia Quendi. Oh, another shot from the catapult. I think that got a little bit more friendly fire than they would have liked. Oh, the poor Quendi just getting hacked down by the Sindar Blade Masters. Although, just through sheer attrition, it is starting to tell against them. Defeat now apparently a certainty for that unit. Let's see if we can get one more catapult volley in there. Another nice shot. Yeah, two grazes. Nothing particularly devastating at this point. But it's only, I think, a matter of time. This big stationary blob is kind of just asking for it. Not really too many places that it can go. One more? Do we want one more? There it is. Oh, and there's the payoff. So many of those Sword Quinny just getting fried alongside their Lindon Longspears brothers. And look at that, shaken. Yeah, we need some reinforcements in here very, very quickly. We need to manage to break through here and try and get out of this gatehouse, because we are getting butchered by those Galadrim veteran warriors. Now cycle charges from the Galadrim mounted company, and of course that catapult that's just relentlessly firing in to the massed ranks of our forces. Elsewhere, moving back to the other gatehouse, it looks like the High Elves managing to bring it back with the commitment of some of their heavy companies. King of the Hill bringing in some of his Storm Guard to fight against the Elder Council rather. Yeah, these spearmen not going to have a chance. Now that they're out of their missiles, they are decent medium spearmen, but spearmen have a hidden penalty essentially against sword units. So these Eladrin Storm Guard are going to cut through them quite efficiently. So we've got some bow quendi in here as well, just probably for the sheer numbers. Looks like that is a commitment from Tornado, and he's going to use them against these Silvan spearmen, which is picking your battles very wisely. Against just about anything else, the bow quendi would get absolutely thrashed. But against the Silvan spearmen, their sheer numbers, I think, are actually going to be a help to the High Elven forces as they try to push through this initial choke point. Let's take a look at what the Silvans have arranged for the High Elves after they managed to break through there. There's a lot of reserves, still some archers here, more Silvan spears. And look at this defense. The final line of defense is nothing to sneer at. You've got some more Elder Council, some Sindar archers. Oh god, do you have Sindar archers. Sindar archers for days. And of course, some Sindar blade masters and things like that. Another couple units of Sindar archers down there. This is not going to be an easy position for us to assault. Moving back over here, it looks like the catapult... Ah, yes, I remember this. I used one of my archer companies to try and drive back this catapult crew. We managed to do a lot of damage to them. We didn't completely destroy them, though. As you can see, there's still one piece that is online. Up here in the walls, the Galadrim veteran companies tried to move up and put a little bit of fire into our reserve units out here, but luckily the presence of my Elder Inway archers and my noble bodyguard as well were able to drive them off the walls with heavy losses. Moving back to the gatehouse, we finally managed to push through. This Galadrim mounted company now on its last legs. Not a whole lot of Sylvan Elf infantry still left at the gatehouse. I think that is going to prove to be a big mistake for the Sylvan Elves. If they could just hold us here for longer, we're going to run out of our light companies, and then we're going to have to commit our heavy companies, and they'll be able to focus them down with their many javelin men and bowmen, and of course that artillery piece that is still online up on the hill. What do we got in here? Looks like my Noldor Elder Nobles right in the fight, firing point blank into those Sindar Blade Masters. Even after these guys run out of ammunition, they are very, very strong in close combat. Looks like Esgol Nordir committing a company of his Imladris Guard to help us make this final push through here. But with that catapult still up on the hill, I don't know. That's maybe a little bit of a risky commitment. Yes, the High Elves now definitely in control of this gatehouse. It doesn't look like the Sylvan Elves have a whole lot around here to defend it. It's really going to be down to Sebi, who is now rushing in some more reinforcements in the form of Sylvan Heavy Swordsmen, and of course, his Galadrim Veteran Warriors looking like they're out of ammunition. Actually, no, not all of them. These guys probably still have some ammo left. Sebi maybe thinking a little bit better of it, falling back to a better defensive position, but that catapult still getting kills, still firing down here into the Imladris Guard now, of all things. That's a very expensive, very important unit that we don't want to lose to artillery. Yeah, look at this. This one artillery piece up here with 4 men left in the unit. Let's see if they manage to get anything. Oh, a nice shot there into actually, no, that was into the Sindar Blade Masters. I take it back. That was awful. That's going to send them into a rout, which is going to allow the rest of our forces to move through the gate now and begin to outflank the final defending positions, of which there are only a couple. Really, there's the reserves that Orange Phaedon has over here to try and hold us back on the left, but everything else, for the most part, I think has been driven back up this hill. There's only a few kind of rear guard units down here in the form of Sylvan Spearmen left to hold back the Noldor. Mostly they're there to allow the bow companies to do their bloody work. Those Sindar archers, those are the ones that we saw on the wall earlier, getting a nice flanking shot into these Nori-Tirno warriors, who really don't have a lot of defense against it. The Nori-Tirno are decent medium archers, but against Sindar, they have no block value, and they have very little armor. So this small unit of Sindar is actually going to manage to kill quite a lot of them. It's like another commitment here from King Strategist, bringing up the big guns in the form of his Noldor Elder Nobles. If they turn their sights on those Sindar archers, they're going to destroy them, and I think Happy Meal knows it. So he is now trying to flee out of range, or at least out of line of sight, of those Noldor Elder Nobles and try and salvage what remains of the Sindar bodyguard. What do we got here? These guys are celebrating. I guess they're very pleased with themselves that they managed to drive those Sindar archers back just with their mere presence. The Sindar, though, looks like they're answering that challenge. They're now turning around and firing into those Noldor Elder Nobles. They're not going to get many kills, not initially, but after a while they will start to wear down that elite bodyguard unit. Boquendi from Tornado now going to be the first into the rear guard. Beautiful charge into those Silvan spears. And this is going to be a pretty even fight. No, the Boquendi definitely going to lose that one. I think probably because of the high defense value in melee of the Silvan Spearmen along with their shield block chance from the front. There's not very many of the Boquendi, so they're actually getting slaughtered. More reinforcements coming in the form of the Norei Tirno. I think the Norei Tirno have the chops in melee to cut down these spearmen. Almost certainly, and they've definitely got the numbers. Nonetheless, so these Silvan Spearmen, undeterred, fighting hard against these invaders. Let's take a look and see how things are going on the other end. Have we managed to break through? We kind of have. I think so. What we got up here? It looks like I've managed to move in with some of my bow companies, a couple units of Elder and Wing Archers. Looks like they got a little... Yeah, I remember what happened to these guys. It was that damned catapult that did a lot of damage to them, managing to get a nice volley as they were passing through the gate. So unfortunately, they're now heavily reduced, down from, I think, like 78 or something like that, to a mere 66. Well, a mere 66. They're down to 66. Up here, the Imladris Guard leading the way alongside a second company of Imladris Guard from Esgal Nordir, looking like they want to threaten this flank here for the Silvan Elves. But honestly, there's no threat. If those pikemen want to stay over there, they send their archers, and looks like they have the idea, in fact, right now. They're going to just turn around, reform, and pepper these guys down. These Imladris Guard, their weakness is definitely archers, but especially AP archers. So the Silvan Elves, I think, need to take the initiative here and just form up on this hill and fire down into these Imladris Guard who are just kind of sitting there, not doing a whole lot. Looks like the issue is going to be forced a little bit by my archer companies in the back there. You can see my Elder and my archers firing into the flank here, looking to get a piece of those Sindar. Let's see how they respond. Oh yeah, I see what they're doing. They're firing now back at my archers, the most obvious target. I think now would be a good time for those Imladris Guard to move in. They'll be able to occupy the Sindar archers and stop them from firing, and then I can focus my archers elsewhere. But it looks like instead we're going to see a fight here between the Silvan Staff Masters charging into battle against the Imladris Guard. I think I actually missed these guys in the army composition because they are really good at hiding. That's actually one of the biggest strengths of this unit, is that they are able to hide anywhere, and you need to because they have low armor, but extremely high melee defense. They have like 63 defense, most of which is their melee defense. So if you need a unit to tie something up for an extended period of time, the Silvan Masters are a very good, cheap go-to for that. So for that reason, they make very good kind of rear guard units. They don't have a lot of killing power, though. As you can see, they're not actually killing any of the Imladris Guard, who are going to slowly but surely beat these guys down. But neither are they dying very quickly to them. And just let me put that in perspective. The Imladris Guard are far and away the best pike unit in the game, and pikes kill just about everything. So if they're not being pulled out of combat like this and just straight up fighting them, these guys will be able to last for a very long time and tie up an important elite unit. Let's see how things are going down here. Looks like another skirmish fight erupting between the attackers and the defenders. We're now slowly screening the movement of their catapult, moving it into place. And once that gets in there, it's gonna be a matter of time. How much damage can this catapult do before the defending Silvan archers manage to kill it with their high accuracy? Anyway, down here, it looks like the rear guard has been driven back for the most part. These Silvan Spearmen fighting hard against the Norei Tirno, but not doing very well for themselves. But look at this, surprisingly enough, from the rear, got some Silvan light spearmen charging into the Norei Tirno warriors. That might be enough. That might be enough to actually beat these Norei Tirno. So we've got some Sindar Blade Masters from the High Elves, a whole 3 of them charging into the rear of the Silvan Spears, but they're actually going to do a fair amount of damage. The Silvan Spears routing? No, I'm not too sure what they're doing. They're just trying to get away from the Sindar Blade Masters or something right now. Maybe they're chasing down this routing unit, but they definitely want to get back into combat and try and whittle down what remains of these Norityrna warriors. Delay, delay, delay. That is the name of the game for these Silvan light spearmen. Oh, I see what they're doing. They are going right for that catapult piece alongside the Silvan staff masters. I think King Strategist realizes his mistake now that those infantry units are coming for them alongside support from the Elven archers up on the hill. They're going to have to flee away from there as quickly as possible, and he's going to commit with his Imladris Storm Raiders. That's a hard one to say. And the Silvan staff masters really don't have a hope or a prayer of beating these guys, and the catapult crew is going to manage to escape quite nicely, although that catapult piece there, not in a great position. As soon as the crew go back for the artillery piece, they are going to get shot down by archers. So I think now the best strategy for the High Elves is going to be to try and expend the missiles of the Silvan Elves as quickly as possible so they can begin to leverage their artillery advantage. Over here we have a very heavy commitment from Tornado, bringing in most of his light companies. You can see a lot of Sword Gwendi, a lot of Lindon Longspears alongside some Sindar Blade Masters, and indeed some Stormguard, a couple companies of Stormguard right here. Looks like they are getting themselves in a position to assault this final Silvan Elf defense. And look at this. This is formidable. That is a lot of spears. There's AP in support, javelins. Actually, no, look at this. The party's getting started a little bit early. The Imladris Guard pushing hard on the flank against the Silvan Heavy Spears, but they are very exposed here. Those Elder Council are going to just cut these guys down.
The battle is very much in our favor.
And indeed, they already are. Look at that. Nice volleys into the flank and rear along the length of that Imladris Guard unit. Unit of Silvan Axemen moving into position as well. Probably going to flank these guys as soon as they're done with the missile bombardment. I can see what's happening, and I'm trying to counter this a little bit with my archers. You can see the Elder Council actually suffering quite badly to my elite Elven archers. They are going to be obliged, of course, to flee backwards, try and get themselves out of line of sight to prevent that unit from being killed, because this is going to be really important later once the big fight starts. Up here we have some Lothlorien Sindar Blade Masters charging into the flank of the Imladris Guard. At the same time, they're being pushed hard by the Silvan Axemen. This is going to be devastating for that elite pike unit. Hopefully there's some reinforcements on the way, and indeed there is. Look at this. A big commitment here. We've got Mithlon Nobles and Elder archers and some, I think, out of ammunition, Norityrna warriors. And Esgal Nordur actually bringing up his catapult as well. So the Silvan Elf defenders, I think, are in a bit of a bind here. They've got a catapult piece here, the potential threat of a catapult piece a little bit farther down the hill, and they've kind of just been driven back into this pen by the Noldor. Looks like Tornado moving in up the hill, getting ready to engage the front lines. In fact, he already has with some of his shock troops. Got some Sindar Blade Masters there, fighting against the Silvan Heavy Spearmen. Over here, the Lindon Longspears doing their best, but they're definitely outclassed in this kind of fight. Luckily for them, though, help is on the way. Nice charge into the front of those Silvan Heavy Spearmen. The Sword Gwendi are not amazing, but they are quite good medium infantry. It says that they're light infantry, but that's because there's no medium infantry classification in Medieval 2 Total War, as far as I know. But these Sword Gwendi have pretty decently high attack values. Oh, that catapult just devastating the attackers. Beautiful arced shot right over their front lines. No friendly fire whatsoever into the High Elven front line. That is just beautiful. So now we're going to have to really, I think, focus on this catapult piece. Otherwise, that is going to destroy us. Look at that. Another 2 beautiful hits, followed up by a third. So many Stormguard just died there, ripping a giant hole in the center of the High Elves. Actually, the Imladris Stormguard thinking of routing, now down to 8. That whole unit gone in the space of 2 volleys. Now being followed up with some javelin shots as well. Another beautiful shot from the Lothlorien catapult up there in the hill. This is a threat that needs to be dealt with. I think around this point, we start moving up with some of our archers, trying to focus them down. Actually, you can see a unit of Bow Gwendi firing at that catapult. But actually, King Strategist has his Noldor Elder Nobles here. 2 units of them, actually one of them down to 10. I don't know how that happened. But they're now focusing their fire on that catapult to try and give Tornado a bit of a break, because damn, that had to hurt. No luck so far, but hopefully for the Noldoran attackers, they managed to get that offline as quickly as possible. Down here, speaking of catapults getting shot by archers, the High Elven catapult from Esgal Nordur already under fire from the Sylvan Elf defenders. Got a big commitment here. Now it's time to move these guys in, I think. I've actually got my General's Bodyguard up here, my Noldor Elder Nobles, now out of ammunition. In a great position to support these guys. I don't know why I haven't committed them yet. There's a big gap in the line. We will be able to flank not only the Sylvan Axemen, but the Sylvan Heavy Spearmen as well. So I need to charge into that gap right away. And indeed, it looks like that is what I'm doing. Oh man, they're going to get in there and just do so much damage to these guys. Look at that. So many of those Axemen falling very quickly. These Noldor Elder Nobles almost single-handedly turning the tide of this engagement. The Sylvan Elves, seeing what kind of trouble they're in, are going to move down with the unit of Sindar Blade Masters. I think this is the same unit that flanked the pike block from Imladris earlier. Sindar Blade Masters now charging into battle. Our own Sindar Blade Masters looking to support the Sword Quendi front line from Tornado. Another couple units of, I think this is our Elder and Spearmen. Very, very strong battle line units. Definitely want to get them into the center, which is, I believe, is where Esgail Nordir is moving them, which is really, that's a great move on his part. Really, really solid situational awareness, deploying his troops exactly where we need them to be. Elsewhere, I want to talk about this for a moment. The most of my forces are committed to this little gatehouse. Actually, if you look at this here, you can see my Sindar Blade Masters pushing through the forces of Sebi, who have actually fled up this hill. You can see a couple of units of my, or one unit of my cavalry. I think the rest of them are in there as well. Yeah, you can see the Lancers in the back, trying to tie up these Elder Councils so they can't do any more damage to me. But Sebi has retreated up this very, very steep hill with what remains of his out garrison, which honestly you can't hold it against him. He is extremely outnumbered. He's only got a couple units of Axemen, a couple units of Swordsmen, and of course some Galadrim veterans as well. I think about 3 units of them. So he managed to preserve a very small but elite core of his army, and he's now making a final stand up on the top of that hill, which is really costing me quite a lot in lives to try and push through. I definitely committed way too many of my Sindar Blade Masters here, and they're now getting shot down from the hill by those Galadrim veteran warriors. But let's move on back to the main fight. Things not looking great for the Sylvan Elves. You can see the flanks beginning to buckle a little bit as more and more High Elves move in to replace their slain brothers. Actually, it looks like Orange Phaedon is kind of falling back a little bit, trying to tidy up his lines a little bit and prevent himself from getting completely outflanked. Looks like he's going to maybe pull back to here and try and use this this building as cover so that the High Elves can't wrap around him as easily, which is a good move. Down here in the battle line, though, the Sylvan Heavy Spearmen really holding their ground hard for the most part, except over here on the flank where the High Elves have managed to punch through them quite significantly. But now the High Elves are going to find themselves surrounded. Look at this. Sindar Blade Masters up there alongside some Galadrim veteran warriors have now surrounded these companies of Elder Rinway Spearmen who got a little bit too far ahead of themselves. And it's really starting to pay off. You can see a lot of dead golden armored warriors there. I think the King Strategist now has his catapult back up online. Let's take a quick look down here. Oh, he most definitely does. You can see it. You can see it through this cloud of reinforcements that are moving up to that High Elven front line, or to the Sylvan Elf front line. The High Elves definitely not out of the fight yet. Very few of them still alive. Looks like they got focus fired down, but I think it's official. The defenders are probably quite low on ammo, if not completely out of ammo entirely. Another nice shot there. Looks like it's targeting the reserve units. Oh no, the Sindar Archer's still online. They should be targeting that catapult, absolutely. Alright, moving back down here, these Galadrim veteran warriors alongside their Sindar brothers really pulling it back. You can see the High Elves being driven back in the center, back towards this Sword Quendi line that's forming the reserves. Yeah, I definitely need to get some AP units in there. If there's any Smiths of Eredin, now would be a good time to commit them, I think. Drive back the Sylvan Heavy Spearmen, crush and isolate this portion of the line, and then just hold off the Galadrim veteran warriors to give the rest of your forces time to close in on them from either flank. Because over on this flank, things are getting really desperate. The Elder Council, alongside the depleted Sylvan Axemen, trying to hold the line, but there's just too much here. Oh, there goes one of the Sylvan Elf generals. I'm not too sure who's general, but look at that. Look at that thick fighting. Actually, I think that was just over here. It may have been Happy Meal's general or something like that. But these three companies rather of Mithlond nobles pushing in there hard, crushing this flank just through sheer weight and the numbers that they can bring to bear. Look at that. Look how quickly the situation is changing here. Sindar Archer's now completely out of ammunition. Looks like they're going to have to be committed to the fight as well to try and stop the advance of the Mithlond nobles. Look at this. The line definitely broken on this side. Slowly but surely, the Silvan Heavy Spearmen are going to be outflanked and surrounded. Mithlond nobles pushing back against the Sindar archers, who apparently defeat is an inevitability for. Look at that. Oh man, those Mithlond nobles, I love it. I love the aggression on the part of Esgal Nordir here, just really pushing hard against the Sylvan Elves, heedless of any losses that may be incurred. That is just, that is just beautiful, aggressive gameplay. It's like a small group of the Mithlond nobles have actually got into the back of the Galadrim veteran warriors. Some of them getting cut down quite quickly for their trouble. The Galadrim veteran warriors, no slouches in melee, but as more and more of these nobles pour in, I think the Galadrim warriors are going to find themselves overwhelmed. So it looks like some of the reserve units from the other flank are now going to be committed to try and drive back the Mithlond nobles, who have really just wreaked havoc on the line here. They've really kind of changed up the game for the defenders, and the defenders are now struggling, I think, to try and cope with that. Looks like quite a lot of them have died already, though. Maybe it's the missiles and those counter push from the defenders, but the Mithlond nobles appear to be running out of steam. Luckily for them, there's some more reinforcements coming in. Actually, no, these Imladris guards I think are going elsewhere. Possibly trying to help me push against my enemies up here on the hill. Because I've pushed in with basically everything I have left. I've got what remains of my cavalry. I've got my Smiths of Eredin engaged against the Galadrim veterans. But because of the way the pathfinding works here, a very small number of them can hold out for a very long time. It says victory is certain for my troops, but honestly don't believe it. They are just getting exhausted trying to fight up this hill against these entrenched Sylvan Elf defenders. And there's still so much more that we have to deal with. These Silvan Axemen have a lot of AP, like 22 AP damage and like 44 defense. So this is not going to be an easy thing for my exhausted troops to have to push through. So I think what King Strategist is doing with his Imladris pikemen is actually moving them over here to help me push. Because these pike units are amazing in this kind of situation where they can't be outflanked. Actually bringing a couple units of his Falas Lords over there as well. Looks like the attackers are feeling like they have this center fight in the bag. But honestly, there's still a lot of defenders left. Let's not count our chickens before they're hatched. The defenders still have. Oh, looks like one of their generals went down. They definitely don't have a general anymore, but they still have a part to play over here at this hill fortress. And look at this. There's still a reasonable amount of Sindar still up here. This is a decent force for a last stand. I think a lot of them have been cut down, probably by the Noldor Elder nobles and their accurate missile fire. Oh man, they've really managed to drive us back on the flank. It's gonna be close, I think, because they've done so well on the flank. They've driven back most of the Mithlond nobles. Now it's just my elder nobles really holding down that flank almost on their own. If they can manage to drive us back, they may be able to wipe out this entire line if they roll it up. Because once they get past the Smiths of Eredin, it's just a lot of sword quendi, isn't it? And some more Smiths on the other side. But honestly, there's not too many of them left at this point. Actually, no, there's 45 in there. I spoke too soon. But by the time that they get there won't be too many left. Beautiful, beautiful work from the defenders so far. Oh, there goes my general, in fact. Cut down by the Sindar Blade Masters. Quite a lot of reserves left on the part of the attackers as well. Still some Storm Guards still to come from King of the Hill. Got some Storm Raiders as well. Down here, some troops from Tornado. Just look like they're hanging out, just waiting. Not a whole lot the Sword Quendi can do in any case. Or those Bow and Sword Quendi can do. What do we have over here? We've got a unit of Falas Lords just kind of hanging out. Just not doing a whole lot. But, yeah, definitely a reasonably close battle. We're up by 10%, but we have an extra 2 armies. So the defenders have just butchered us so far. Down here on the other side on the hill, looks like King Strategist's Imladris Guard have finally arrived on the scene. And I'm pulling back my battered and exhausted companies of soldiers to try and get them away from those Galadrim warriors. Another High Elven general now fallen. Very appropriate the 2 High Elven generals have died so far, because I think 2 of the Sons of Feanor died in this battle as well, so we can consider that as being the deaths of Amrod and Amaras during this battle. Look at this, those Galadrim veteran warriors have just done so much damage. They've just slaughtered me. Yeah, not given any ground all the way up the hill. Hopefully the presence of the Imladris Guard is going to be enough to turn that fight around, because I was seriously concerned at this point that we were going to lose like 2,000 or 3,000 troops just trying to push up here, especially against those Silvan Axemen, who I know can do a lot of damage. Galadrim veterans now falling back up the hill a little bit, looking like they want to take cover behind these AP Axemen. Not a bad idea at all. I think in this kind of choke point right here, the remaining Sylvan Elves can do very, very well for themselves. Well, let's move back on to the center. Looks like the High Elves have finally managed to break through. Yeah, you can see that they've crushed all resistance down the line, but it was a bloody struggle all the way across. Most of the Sindar have been driven back up onto the hill where they've been engaged by Sindar Blade Masters and Imladris Storm Raiders. Yeah, these few Sindar left alongside actually some fairly healthy companies of yet more Sindar archers, but of course the Galadrim veteran warriors. This is not going to be an easy hill for us to take, and they're just kind of biding their time there, getting back some of their fatigue and waiting for an opportune moment. Although I say that now, and then they charge into battle. I think the rest of these guys are probably going to wait for a little bit longer. Yeah, these guys are definitely going to have to move in because I think of the presence of all these Sindar Blade Masters pushing up on the flank. Well, let's take a look at how things are going up on the hill. This is really the last significant holdout, I think, of Sindar forces within the city. I think Imladris Guard not doing too bad, but it's hard for them to get themselves into a formation like this. Pike units really rely on their formation to do a lot of damage, so when they have to kind of trickle in and are necessarily going to be able to be outflanked by the Galadrim veterans, then these pikemen are not going to do nearly as well. But I think by sheer weight of numbers, maybe they'll manage to finally push through this company of Galadrim veteran warriors who've just done so much damage. Look at everything that they've done. This is one company so far, with a little bit of help from another, but for the most part, it's just been this one group up here on the hill. Let's move on back and see how the Sindar archers are doing up on this other hill. Now basically fully engaged, Happy Meal tried to rest them up as best he could. He got them from tired to winded, so I suppose that's something. Fighting downhill against the Sindar Blade Masters, they're actually doing really well for themselves. Let's go ahead and let's fast forward just a little bit. Balance of the forces apparently evenly matched. There are some Noldor Elder Nobles in there, but not really enough to make a difference. I think that's what remains of my General's bodyguard. Over here, the Storm Raiders now heavily reduced, actually being beaten back by the Sindar Archers and the Galadrim Veteran Warriors. I don't know, it's hard to tell. There are still some reinforcements, I think, yet to come. Some tired Sword Quendi, some very battered companies down here from the front lines. But I don't know, it looks like because of how many of them are here and how well they're doing, maybe the Sindar Archers and these Galadrim Veteran Warriors could be more of a pain in the side, or a thorn in the side of the attackers than they're really giving them credit for. Alright, let's move on back to the other side. See if the Stormguard have managed to push through. Actually, with the help of these Falas Lords, I think that this is basically a certainty. I think there's some Noldor Elder Nobles actually down here on the low grounds. Indeed there are. A very small amount of them, but still some Noldor Elder Nobles nonetheless. With their AP missiles, I think they're going to really tip the balance in favor of the attackers. Yeah, those Galadrim Veteran Warriors really don't have a lot of defense against AP missiles. This is one of the few things that can deal with them efficiently. And all of these like high defense, multiple HP units, it's only really a matter of time before they manage to push through. So we're going to speed it up just a little bit here to about 3 times. Look at this. These Silvan axemen still biding their time. Sebi really wants to wear us down. Just wear down our fatigue and yeah, but it's a smart plan. It's going to allow him to inflict casualties that are disproportional to the amount of men that he has left, or elves, I should say. Moving back over here, let's see how the Sindar are doing. They've actually managed to push the battle line back down the hill, stepping over the bodies of their brothers. They're actually slaughtering these Sindar Blade Masters. Sindar versus Sindar. Not exactly lore accurate, but without them, the High Elves don't have a whole lot of really strong infantry to call on, especially if there was, in theory at least, a limit on how many heavy infantry units that they could bring. 7 heavy spearmen. Looks like they were thinking about routing a minute ago. These Sindar Archers, though, bravely fighting on in the face of overwhelming numbers. Yeah, look at that. I mean, they're losing on the left flank, or on the right flank, rather, which I think is going to be the decisive factor in this, but, like, look at the damage that they have done. There was not many of them left. Let's just look. Let's take a moment and just appreciate the carnage here. This final stand from the Silvan Elves was something to be proud of. Definitely worthy of song. Yeah, just absolutely, absolute slaughter for both sides. Looks like what remains of the Sindar archers, not too long for this world, only about 15 of them left. So now the main fight is going to be up here on the hill. Galadrim veteran says victory is almost a certainty. I'm not too sure why I would say that. Now it's apparently defeat, but it looks like King Strategist is just going to muscle through with his Falas lords, his now exhausted Falas lords. Like I said, it really takes a toll on your fatigue trying to fight up this hill, and Sebi is trying to take full advantage of that fact. But the Falas lords with their 4 HP, I think, are going to be able to just muscle through this line and deny the Galadrim veterans the benefit of fighting in formation. And indeed, there they go. Look at that. There's actually some Noldor Elder nobles in there leading the way. A very healthy unit of them from King Strategist. Overwhelming the thin Galadrim line, this thin yellow line that represents the last hope of the Sindar to drive back the Noldor. They are not long for this world, however, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to put it on 6 times. Oh, just brutal. Now I think would be a good time to just charge down with your Silvan Axemen, and indeed that appears to be what Sebi is doing, getting into those Noldor Elder Nobles. Not a bad fight for these Silvan Axemen. Normally that's going to be not an easy thing for them, not an easy unit for them to overcome, but with their fresh fatigue and their AP, I think maybe they could do it. I managed to hack down 6 of them so far, which is extremely impressive. But I think maybe they're pushing down a little too far, getting themselves overextended. Now the Noldor Elder Nobles, despite their low numbers, have managed to wrap around the Silvan Axemen and actually kind of surround them a little bit. I think there's still some archer fire coming. It's probably coming from down the cliff, downhill. I think King Strategist still has a unit of nobles that still have ammunition. Indeed, there they are. Yeah, firing up into the Silvan Axemen, who are just, I don't know what they're doing. They're way overextended right now. Next wave coming down, the Silvan Axemen charging hard into battle. I don't know. I don't know if it's going to be enough. It's definitely not going to be enough. What am I saying? These Silvan Axemen are doomed, but they're putting up a brave final stand for our amusement. Another charge now from the Silvan Heavy Swordsman. This is actually the bodyguard unit of Sebi. See Haldir hiding out behind a tree there. Maybe he's going to climb it and just like hide from the enemy. King Strategist just muscling forward, using the mass and numbers to push through this final Silvan Elf defense. The Swordsman getting cut down very, very quickly. Haldir now surrounded. Actually managing to cut down one of the Sindar Blade Masters. Surprisingly enough, but like he's surrounded at bay against his beloved tree. Doing his best to fight off a couple of Storm Raiders. Let's witness the end here for this brave general. Oh, they're just relentlessly hacking him apart. He's stun locked now. These 3 Storm Raiders just doing work. It's only a matter of time before poor Haldir gets cut down. And there it goes. Cut down from behind, just like in the movie. And that is the final stand of the Silvan Elves. A very brave defense. Look at that. A lot of casualties. 86%. They were outnumbered by 2 armies. So they did a ton of damage to us. Very, very spirited defense on the part of the Silvan Elves. Let's take a look at some of the casualties now. Because of the low numbers of elven armies in general, obviously we didn't get too many enemies killed, but like, look at this. 2,300, 2,200, everybody over, well over 2,000. Very impressive defense on the part of Happy Meal, Orange Phaedon, and Sebi25. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the battle. I hope you felt this was a fitting end to our very long-running historical miniseries, which I intended to have done way earlier. The next thing that's going to be coming up is going to be, it's actually not going to be a replay, it's going to be some 4th Age. And I'm going to try and get my my Elves of Lorien campaign up and running again, because it was broken for a while, but I think I might have fixed it. Anyway, we'll see. And following that, we are going to be coming out with some Game of Thrones content. Actually, finally managing to get the RP off on its way. We've got the map done. We've got all the factions added. We've got all the players. So you should be seeing some of that pretty soon. And it's going to be a fairly ambitious project. I'm actually really excited about it. I have a brand new piece of editing software that I'm learning how to use specifically for this project. So hopefully it should be something that is worth the wait. But in any case, my name is Jordan, also known as J Monster, and I will see you guys later. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye!